Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün Çin'de burslu yüksek lisans programları için kaçırılmayacak sunumu ile Schwarzman Scholars'tan Federico ve Servet Bey bizlerle olacak. Lütfen sorularınızı sağ alt köşede Questions bölümünden yönlendirmeyi unutmayın. Yes, Federico, the stage is yours now.
Hi, everyone. Greetings from New Jersey in the United States. My sincere apologies for not speaking a word of Turkish, and very glad to be here with you today. This is the second time Schwarzman Scholars partners with IEFT Talks, and we're very glad to be addressing mainly, from our understanding, a Turkish a crowd and audience, but people from around the world. Thank you so much for joining from wherever you are. So just a quick, I'll be joined today by Servet Baylimi, who is a former scholar of the program, and not any former scholar of the program. He's from Turkey and is an amazing guy, and you will hear from him soon after my short presentation. But Servet, if you want to pop in the screen and help salute everybody today.
Hey everyone, merhaba arkadaşlar. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you.
All right, well, thank you, Servet, and I will pass the baton to you soon for the highlight of our presentation. This is a very quick overview of what we are programmed for the next hour or so. I'll give you a quick run of show of the program, what Schwarzman Scholars is about, the program experience, which of course you will hear in much better terms from Servet himself, who was a member of the inaugural cohort and could experience the program in full. And not only that, but as you will see later, Servet was someone who's participated in the program as a candidate, as someone who was selected, as a scholar, and as a member of our alumni community, has been an example of engagement, and as someone who's been very much involved in the program in all its aspects. I will then talk to you a little bit about admissions in our ongoing and currently open application process, and share a few additional resources before starting the conversation with Servet. And hopefully we'll leave 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. Please feel free to use the chat button, the chat function on your screen to share some questions, and we'll try to go over all the questions we have. All right, so for those of you joining now, and for people who have never heard about Schwarzman Scholars and you decided to stop by IEFT Talks and see what do they have scheduled for today. So this is, I'll very briefly tell you about what is Schwarzman Scholars. In a nutshell, and for those of you joining us now, Schwarzman Scholars is a one-year, a fully funded master's degree program in global affairs based at Tsinghua University in Beijing, China. The program was founded about 8 years ago by Steve Schwarzman, who gives this fancy name to our scholarship program. Steve is the CEO and co-founder of Blackstone, one of the largest investment firms in the world. And he created the program in collaboration with the presidents of Tsinghua University and several other world leaders in higher education, business, government, and international relations. And you may ask, like, why did he create it, he or this group of leaders and senior leaders in all areas of expertise decided to create this program? So the original motivation for the creation of Schwarzman Scholars was to address what those founders and many others believe and understood to be a dangerous gap of understanding between China and the world. In other words, Schwarzman Scholars was envisioned to foster and nurture relationships between the future leaders of China and other parts of the world. At its core, Schwarzman Scholars' mission is to create and support a vibrant, diverse, and truly impactful community of global young leaders, capable of addressing the most pressuring issues and challenges of the 21st century. So obviously the program has very big ambitions, and in order to accomplish those ambitions in the long run, the program has been designed as much more than a master's degree, much more than 1 year in school to get a fancy degree in the end of it. The program it comprises a world-class curriculum in which that I will talk to you about in a few minutes. And that includes professors not only from Tsinghua University, but also from renowned universities across the world. This is also an immersive leadership experience in China, so much more than the classroom and an academic component of the program. There is a strong emphasis on the extracurricular activities that scholars are exposed to, both during this year in China and as they enter the alumni community. I think more importantly than that, and one way to also explain what Schwarzman Scholars is, this is a global network for life. You know, the vision of the program, of the founders of the program, but also of those who go through the program and staff members like myself, you know, the hope is that in a few years, the people who are going through the program will be occupying positions of leadership and positions of decision-making positions and consequential positions around the world, be it in politics, in business, in philanthropy, in international affairs. And the idea is that this very global and diverse network of scholars will, once they are in those positions of leadership, be able to communicate with each other and have this shared experience from their time in China. And again, it's important to reiterate that this is a fully funded scholarship. That means that there are no costs to applying to the program, and all the expenses to be part of the program, to join the program in China, traveling to China and back and within China, all the expenses are covered by the program. And the idea here is to reiterate that we are interested in the best possible candidates we can get from around the world, regardless of their background, areas of expertise, and socioeconomic conditions, right? So I'll move on to talk to you a little bit about the program experience, and I'll start by talking about Tsinghua University, which is the house of the Schwarzman Scholars Program. For those of you who don't know about Tsinghua, this is a university with a very long tradition, with over 100 years of history. It is mainly a public, national, but mainly a research university. And I say that because it is important. They have many programs and undergraduate programs, but over half of its student personnel in the university are researchers in graduate and postgraduate degrees. A few reasons to highlight of why Tsinghua University was chosen to be the main house and partner of Schwarzman Scholars, and why housing Schwarzman Scholars at Tsinghua was not an accident, is that, you know, the school was founded back in 1911 at the end of the Qing dynasty, and from the beginning, the idea of this university was to be a place to train and recruit the Chinese intellectual and cultural elites to be trained to go abroad, funded by the Chinese government, to some of the top universities in the United States and the UK. So the whole university was conceived with the idea of bridging cultural and social gaps between China and the world. And last but not least, the Tsinghua University has a legacy of leadership. Many of the current and past leaders in Chinese politics and business are graduates and alumni from Tsinghua University. Not to mention, you know, Xi Jinping and Hu Jintao, the two possibly most famous recent leaders of China, are graduates of Tsinghua University. And I think this gives you an example of the influence and impact of Tsinghua University. Very briefly, I'll talk to you about the academic program. This is, as I said, Schwarzman Scholars is a master's degree program in global affairs. Those who go through the whole experience and manage to attend and follow all the requirements for graduation will graduate with a master's degree in global affairs, accredited by Tsinghua University and recognized by the Chinese Ministry of Education. And, you know, interesting to note is that what is a master's in global affairs, especially when we're talking about a cohort of students that come from all countries, all walks of life. We accept students from all disciplines. So what do they study and what do they come to study when they are in China? And very, very short, of course, the program is much more complex than the few minutes I have here to present. And I invite you all to visit our website, to check out the professors, faculty, and guest speakers who are part of our academic program. But mainly our program is based and structured around three main curricular pillars or norths, as I could say. The first one is leadership. As it's easy to imagine, this is a program intended to recruit, foster, and develop both professionally and personally a next generation of global leaders. So in that, and I'll invite Servet perhaps to comment on the courses he had and the experiences he had, but this is very much a hands-on curriculum designed to help young leaders to navigate a world in which China plays a more and more decisive role. It is a global affairs curriculum, and by that you should expect to take courses in areas such as in more conventional areas of international relations and trade, international business. And the third component that I would highlight is China. China is not necessarily a separate part of the curriculum, but China pervades all parts of what is studied and discussed within Schwarzman College in this year in China. The idea of the program is not to form or recruit specialists in China. We have no illusion that in 1 year someone can become a fully smart and specialist in Chinese history of development. But the program's main goal is to train leaders and to help capacitate leaders to navigate a world in which China plays a more and more decisive role. As Steve Schwarzman himself likes to say, China is no longer an elective course, is no longer something that people can choose to take. It is a mandatory curriculum for anyone willing or aspiring to lead in the world today. There are many elective courses offered to scholars throughout the program and in the year in China. There are cross-disciplinary programming and a full access to the Tsinghua University campus and other departments. There is also the possibility of taking courses in other departments at Tsinghua University. The year culminates, and the whole academic program culminates in the capstone project, which the easiest way to describe would be a final thesis, but it's also an unfair way to describe the capstone project that comprises much more than a final paper about your experience. There are different modalities of capstone projects that are presented. And I also invite you, if you want to know more about past capstones that have been defended, the type of things that students are researching while at the college, I also invite you to visit our YouTube page where there's one recorded session from last year specifically talking about capstones, and that can give you a little bit more breadth on what the program is about. So last in this slide, Mandarin instruction. So Mandarin is not mandatory, and this is something I'll talk about shortly. You do not need to have any previous experience in China. You do not need to speak any Mandarin to apply to the program. If you do, great, you're also eligible to apply, but all scholars have the opportunity to perfect their Mandarin skills while at the college. And maybe even Servet can comment on his experience back when he was in the program and learning Chinese. Best important to highlight also the experiential learning or the extracurricular component of this program. This is a program that was founded to foster a next generation of leadership, and it was founded by people who were mainly non-academics. There were professors involved, but the original intention of the program and the goal, the long-term vision and mission of the program is really to get people and to offer the scholars a hands-on and first-hand experience in learning China and making connections in China and with leadership, young leadership in China. So, of course, a strong emphasis from the original design of the program that continues to be perfected, even at this time of such challenging situation with still restrictions in place in China and all sorts of geopolitical tensions with China. There is still a strong emphasis in the design of the program in the extracurricular experience that the program offers. I will not go through each one of the items described there in the slide. There are personalized mentorship experiences, deep dives. Perhaps that's another point that Servet can comment of his deep dive experience, which are basically group. The cohort of around 150 scholars is divided into thematic groups, and these are 1 week to 10 day long guided trips in which scholars have the chance to interact with people in their areas of interest. And also, there are several opportunities for internship and practical training, both during the time at the college and also after the scholars graduate. Again, living in China is an opportunity. It is probably what is one of the most attractive components of Schwarzman scholars. But it's not only when we talk about living and experiencing China firsthand. This is, I think, very different than typical exchange programs. This is not necessarily a time to go and just have a good time. Hopefully people have a good time in China, but it is a challenging experience as well. We understand that we are recruiting and supporting leaders who are consequential leaders and who want to pursue careers of impact in their field. So the program is there to support those careers and to support those ambitious young leaders in all endeavors that they can have. Very important, in about a month, we'll be graduating our 6th cohort. So our alumni network is very soon going to cross the 800 strong threshold. The class of 2022-2023 is about to join the college this fall, and we are currently recruiting for the 8th cohort of Schwarzman scholars that will start the program in 2023-2024. So moving on to talk to you about admissions, and very quickly, this is a program targeted at young leaders. In order to be eligible to the program, you need to have finished. This is a master's degree program, so candidates must have finished their degree, must have finished their undergraduate degree before the start of the program. This means that if you're still in your undergrad, no matter in what area of discipline of work, you're still eligible to apply this year as long as you graduate before July of 2023. The program has a very strict age limit. Don't ask me why. And I don't make the rules, unfortunately. I would love to be able to. I disagree that youth finishes at 28 years old. I am a very proud 40-year-old young person. But, this is something non-negotiable, and people applying to the program must be between 18 and 20 years old. English proficiency is a requirement for application. The program is in China, but the whole program and the lingua franca of the program is English, the language of instruction. And even though there's plenty of opportunities to communicate in various other languages, including Mandarin, of course, it is required that scholars present their work in English. And in order to be fully capable of following and taking full advantage of this opportunity, scholars are required to speak and prove English proficiency at the moment of application. I will quick jump in because I want to move on to the core of our conversation here today with Servet, but I do invite you to join, to look up in our website. I will share in the chat box a bunch of other resources that are available to students, both for those of you who want to know more about the program or for those of you who already know the program and for whom this presentation is pretty redundant, but you want to know more about how to apply and obviously how to make up a strong application for this program, which is, of course, a very selective program, as you may imagine. Before we pass on to the next part of our presentation today, here is a quick timeline of applications. The requirements for application for Chinese citizens and citizens from all other nationalities the requirements are the same, but the selection of Chinese national follows a slightly different timeline. So applications for Chinese nationals, if there are any of you watching us today holds a China mainland passport, you should be applying through the China track that is managed by Tsinghua University. Applications have been open since January this year, and they close later this month on the 20th of May. For applicants from all other nationalities of the world, including Turkish nationals, The applications were open just under a month ago, and they will remain open until September this year, until September 20th. We do not have a rolling basis application, meaning that it doesn't make a difference for selection purpose whether you submit your application before September 20th, or way before September 20th, or just before September 20th. Of course, as a member of the admissions team who've been following this process for now almost 5 years, I urge you to not leave it to the last minute to apply. God forbid, you may find and encounter any technical problems or issue. So plan yourself, structure yourself. It is not a complex application process, but it is a demanding process for those of you who are serious about joining our community. Take your time, start early, proofread, get many people involved in this application process, and make sure you submit your application at least a week before September 20th to prevent any problem. And after September 20th, the selection process happens fairly quickly, by mid-October, sorry. So just a few weeks after the application deadline, finalists are invited for the final selection phase of interviews, and the interviews will take place virtually again this year due to travel restrictions in 3 different time locations or time zones, right? So we invite about 300 global applicants for the final phase of interviews, and the interviews are quite a remarkable and interesting experience. Another point that Serva may comment in a few minutes. And then the announcement of the class is made in early November, late November, December. So for those of you applying this year, if you're lucky enough to go through the interview process, you will be notified by late November about your admissions in the program, and classes start only in the fall of 2023, August of 2023 to be more specific. I will leave the screen for a few minutes there. You can take a picture of this QR code on the screen. This is the easiest way to stay connected and join our mailing list. You will not be bombarded by emails every day, but it's a very good way to get the notifications you need. Under there, you have also on the screen all our LinkedIn pages, Instagram, Twitter, WeChat, Facebook, and I would highlight our YouTube pages that, one of the silver linings or the benefits of this pandemic that pushes all to be in a virtual space is that we managed to record quite a lot of stuff, including this presentation will be recorded and will be made available by IEFT quite soon. So, but join and be proactive. I think there are many opportunities to ask your questions about the program, both now, but also later on. We have office hours that are probably the most pleasant part of my job is there are designated office hours, and I will leave the link on the chat box in just a few seconds with other additional information. So that's it. I will, how do I stop sharing my screen? Let me see how, there you go. Okay, so I'll invite to the panel now our one and only, served by Emily, and I cannot pronounce your name, by Emily.
Close enough.
Close enough. I know. I suffer with the same problem. I don't have an easy name anyways. And Served, I want to start by just passing the word to you and asking you to give you a brief introduction. It's tough for someone as polyglot, as multinational, as multi-talented as you, but if you can gift us with your remarkable trajectory.
Sure.
You can do that in Turkish too.
I mean, I'll start in Turkish in case there are any non-Turkish joiners who are also on the call. I'm happy to answer it in both languages, especially when we're in the Q&A. Merhaba arkadaşlar, benim adım Servet Bayımlı, New York'tan katılıyorum. I'll do the rest in English. I was born and raised in a Turkish American household here in Brooklyn, and had the opportunity to study at Amherst College. And while I was in college, I thought I wanted to go to law school for a very long time. I thought I wanted to be a children's rights lawyer. And up until about 4 days before I was going to take my law school admissions exam, I found out I had gotten into Schwarzman Scholars, and the things that I wanted to work on and the things that I did work on while I was in China was specifically around adoption rights and the rights of children. And so, and that's exactly the part of the law that I wanted to work on. And so, and thankfully Schwarzman Scholars was able to give me that opportunity. So I will jump into that later. My family is from Eskişehir. But although I was born and raised here, I'm very, very close to Turkey. I was there last month. And then this summer, I will also be back in Turkey. And then, after the program, right after, I moved to Colombia to work on an education and social entrepreneurship-led startup called the Latin American Leadership Academy, which just raised about $3 million to build a school and a social entrepreneurship accelerator for young people. And then another passion that developed while I was in at Schwarzman Scholars with one of the members of the academic team, Doug, was this passion for food and beverage. And I immediately got immersed in the beverages space. And that's where I work now. I'm still very involved with Latin American Leadership Academy, but also just branching out, working on different things. I'm also an investor and advisor to a bunch of minority-led startups, one in Kenya, as well as a few in Brazil and Colombia as well, and Colombia. So I'm very excited to be here. That's a little bit about myself. And yeah, Federico, I'll let you lead the conversation, and then we can open it up to Q&A.
Sure. Well, thank you again, Servet. And I have to share here with everybody that Servet reached out to me not even 24 hours ago. And I was so glad to get his message to join this, because as you can see, this is a busy man. He's not someone that you just reach out and at any time. So it's really an honor to be here. And I think more than anything, Servet is someone who's been, has been in the program in a very unique capacity. He was a member of the original cohort. He participated in the program, I think, in many capacities, both as an applicant, as a candidate, as someone who was interviewed and passed the program, who did the program, and who is now very much involved in the alumni community in many ways, including, he served as application reader in the past and helped out with the interview process. So, but before that, I want to, given that we are addressing a mainly Turkish audience today, I wanted to go back a little bit. You mentioned quickly about it, but go back to perhaps, when was it, 7 years ago, when Schwarzman Scholars was still not even a thing. It was a program. It was just a big promise, right? And I think you were already brilliant back then, I can assume, but also, if you could go back and bring us back, and especially those fellow Turkish who are watching us today, and see, why did you decide to apply to this program in that very moment of your life?
Yeah, it was a very uncertain moment in my life. I thought I wanted to go to law school. I know, at least for a lot of my Turkish colleagues, there's this mindset. The mindset is, I graduate, there's kind of a linear path, and the path is, you finish college, then for men, you go serve in the army for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and then you immediately get a job. And that is the model for success. And then after you get a job, you find a partner, and then after you find a partner, you have a baby, and that's when you've made it. And I didn't want that to be my life story. That is not who I mean, I have very Turkish parents, don't get me wrong, but I don't want the journey to just be that linear and that, frankly, boring. And I was scared, right? I didn't want my experiences and my life story to be Servet, who, finished school, went to the army, had a baby, and is now retired. And that to me is scary. And so when the promise of Schwarzman Scholars really for me came down to this idea that anyone that wants to be a leader in 20, 30 years really has to understand China today. And growing up in Turkey, which is kind of this center where East meets West for the world, it's at a very interesting location. It's right at the heart of the Silk Road, the One Belt One Road, for the One Belt One Road. But also, it's at this intersection of a tough point. It's in a tough place where people are negotiating culture, And I really wanted to understand that better. And so when I wanted to apply to China, also because it was an area that I knew nothing about. You know, when I got into Schwarzman Scholars, the first thing my parents said to me was, why China? Like, of all places, like, are you going to go to a place where you're going to say, you know, your degree was made in China? And for a lot of older folks, China still carries that baggage. Whereas, you know, I think the promise of the program really has been, one, you know, this network. And I think I was very obsessed with building the network. I was skeptical at first about the value the program would add because it's never been done before, right? So when I first applied, I was like, I don't know what this master's is. I don't know what Tsinghua is. But if I could meet 100 cool, smart people who think and see the world like I do, that for me is a win. And I think the biggest benefit I've gotten from the program since has been that network. So I think that's number one. And number two, it has been the education. You know, the professors at Schwarzman have really been stellar. I took my first kind of Harvard Business School, taught by a Harvard Business School professor, but like that style of coursework, it was the first time I've ever done a case-based class before. And that was very interesting, the leadership experience there. And then finally, I think the third was really the commitment to the experience and to the class. And I think that's what made the program really special. I had a mentor who was the executive director of the Chinese branch of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we would just have these chats and go out for drinks. And he would just help me think about what I'm going to do with my life. And he's largely the reason why I entered into the nonprofit space right after Schwarzman, even though I thought I wanted to go to law school. And then along with the deep dive where I went to Baoji. Anyway, I don't want to ramble, but all of this is to say is I had all these things going through my mind as I was entering the program. And then once I was there, the program proved to be a lot more.
Yeah. So tell us, I think that's a good segue to, you know, from that's incredible. And so thank you so much, Servet, again. It's a good segue to, you know, if you could talk to us, if possible, and I know you've been asked this question quite a few times, and you probably respond to that differently, but what would be your top 3 or 4 highlights of the program itself? So once you told us very well, and you mentioned the network and the mentor and also this moment of your life, and what were you aspiring when you applied, and also when you got into the program. But so tell us about the duration of the program, that being there for the inaugural class, and what do you think as a takeout, what were the 3 or 4 highlights, both in the academic or student life, whatever you would highlight as the top 3, 4 things that happened to you during the program?
Yeah, I mean, number one, I have to go back to access to not only the network of other scholars, but access to effectively Stephen Schwarzman's network as well. And so our first lecture ever in the program was from George W. Bush. And he gave a 2-hour lecture on the meaning of modern leadership and what it means to him now, looking back to his presidency. We had lectures from Henry Kissinger. We had lectures, effectively all of these individuals who've proven themselves as leaders, not only in the public sector, but in the private sector, occasionally would just roam the college. I was sitting at lunch one day at the college, and the president of Peru came and sat next to me, and I didn't know who he was, and he was in this suit, and we just struck up a conversation. It was very bizarre. And at the same time, you have very accomplished scholars. I had a hard time when I first started. And that's because I was the 3rd youngest scholar. And so I felt very out of place. I felt like the baby of the group. And because I was the 3rd youngest, really getting to know my fellow scholars felt intimidating, but also so gratifying. Now, I mean, I'm able to pretty much travel to any country and have a bed to sleep on, a couch to sleep on for those of us that, are into couch surfing. That's very special because that's not where the network ends. It's actually where the network starts. And I think that was probably one of the most beneficial parts of the program to me. The second one, I would have to say, was our deep dive. I think the deep dive was really I did mine in Baoji. I did mine on social issues in rural locations. And we basically, there was about 25 of us that took a bus to rural China. And this was like the first time I was really seeing like the farms of China, the villages of China, what it actually means. And we read so much and learned so much about, what's the word? Not urbanification, the movement from rural to urban spaces, and
urbanization, or the process of internal migrations, and
exactly. And that was the first time I was seeing it from the rural side. And for me, not only that, it was also an experience to just sit with my colleagues and really interrogate what it means to live and be in China, and really be part of the backbone, the core foundation infrastructure of what makes China so strong, so remarkable. And then I would say the third thing probably has to be the coursework. One of the most impactful classes I had was this course on leadership, and every day we would have a different case to really interrogate how leaders, both in all sectors, could have solved problems differently. And it wasn't a way of thinking I was used to before, but it kind of concretized and helped give a very clear understanding of like different factors that go into decision making, but also what makes leadership so hard, and what makes leadership more of an art than a science, because there are so many factors that go into it, from something as simple as speaking and listening and the importance of listening, to the technical skills required to be a powerful and impactful leader. So I'd say those are the three main things for me.
No, that's amazing. Thank you, Servet. And I would want to remind everyone, I put on the chat box there. Hopefully everybody has access. And I know, thank you, there are quite a lot of questions coming in. Please sending us. We'll leave a few more minutes. Just in a couple of minutes, we'll jump into those questions. And in the chat box, there's quite a lot of links and resources. So please make sure that you connect to those links and copy and paste them before we finish the session. I don't know if they will be saved for eternity or not. So, and feel free to connect to us at any time. But moving on, one particular question I have for you, and sharing at least part of your excitement. I'm originally from Brazil, and one of the instances that I met Servet, he was already involved with LALA, the Latin American Leadership Academy, which is an organization that I personally hold very dearly. I'm very glad to be one of the mentors for young Latin Americans Latin American leaders who want to pursue careers and want to go into careers of impact wherever they are in the world. And Servet not only was a founding member of LALA and someone involved with the organization, but someone working with admissions. And I have a very personal question to you is, why do you think still for a country of the size and consequence and magnitude and importance of Turkey in global relations, as you pointed out, but I think we could spend a whole year here talking about, the critical and historical importance of Turkey for global affairs. And we're still, from an admissions point of view, we only had, you as a Turkish and one other Turkish citizen admitted into the program. And I can share this, even though I cannot share the exact numbers, but we do have few people from Turkey applying to the program every year. So I wanted to ask you, point blank, what can we do differently? Like, or why do you think not more people are applying to a program like Schwarzman Scholars from Turkey, Turkish universities, or Turkish people from all over the world who are watching?
Yeah, it's a tough question. It's a tough question for a few. Because there are so many factors. Like, although there are 2 Turkish people in the program, none of them have studied in Turkey. Ozan studied in the US as well, and so that makes it complicated to think about. I think to answer your question, it comes down to 2 things. One, awareness of universities. Universities all over the US have a fellowships and scholarships office. A similar kind of analog doesn't really exist in Turkey, to the best of my knowledge. I told you in 2018, I came with Schwarzman Scholars booklets. I came with business cards, and I was ready to do information sessions all over Turkey because I felt it was so important. And I wrote to all of these universities, and none of them really wrote back to me. And I think number one comes with, how do you educate these institutions, not only on the awareness and of the existence of programs like Schwarzman Scholars, but also get them to buy into it. Because I have a dear friend who studies at Bilkent, and he told me, like, even his professors are pushing him to immediately get a job right after. And there isn't like this thought partnership, this like thought around, well, maybe I can get a secondary degree, or maybe I can take a gap year, or maybe I have like that flexibility. And I think that leads into the second reason. The economic state of Turkey makes it very challenging for a lot of young people to also take a gap, or to take a year and go to China. And that's why the fact that this program's fully funded is such a big selling point, especially in Turkey. And I think explaining and selling the value of a program like this to young Turkish aspiring leaders is a big challenge. I think partnering with organizations like IEFT, as well as finding ways to really and succinctly communicate the value of programs like this. It's a tough problem. I think, apart from just like ads and partnerships, it's really getting the university buy-in and like kind of working top down and seeing how they can also help field students, because this is a big selling point for universities as well, to have scholars go in.
Right. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing this. And, I mean, my knowledge of Turkey is probably limited to my knowledge of you. I even feel embarrassed of being addressing a Turkish. I have an admiration, but I've never been to Turkey, so obviously know very little of the context. But being more involved in outreach and admissions in Latin America, we've seen a lot of these things too, similar to, it's quite unique to United States colleges and universities to have this, fully dedicated departments that help people prepare applications, and not only help disseminating opportunities, but really are there. You have 24-hour professionals who are their work, is to prepare people for prestigious international fellowships like Schwarzman Scholars. But I think there's another element too, which is, looking at people like you, Servet, and so many who have gone through our program. And when people go to our website, some people feel intimidated and feel like, wow, look at the super accomplished young people. This program is not for me. I'm never going to get into this.
Totally.
But one thing that is for sure, and I tell people as obvious as it is, but it's important to repeat, is that the only guarantee about an application is that if you don't apply, you're not going to get in. So that is the one statistical chance. And I think it's important to use venues like this to say, we are, from an admissions point of view, and as a program, we understand that the vitality, and we're not going to be accomplishing what we as a program and as an institution, as an organization want, and the vision of it, if we're not inclusive and diverse as we want to be. So this is an open call for young leaders from around the world. Don't wait for your teachers or mentors to tell you to apply to a program like this. Just, even if they're saying the opposite, go look for a job. I think this is if you feel the message of this program reverberating with you, just go on and apply. The resources are there, and we're here to help.
Exactly. So, and you make a really good point, Federico, about culture as well, right? I think for many of us, it's also very hard to talk about yourself. It's hard to talk about your accomplishments. It's hard to write about them. And it's not a skill that many of us have a chance to practice when we're in college. And, being able to get that across, you said it exactly right. If you don't apply, you won't get in. But maybe if you apply, maybe you'll get it. And the application is free. And I think even if people are intimidated, I think the exercise of writing about yourself and thinking about your accomplishments and how do you actually tell a story is valuable, because, hey, if you're not doing it for Schwarzman Scholars, you're going to have to do it throughout the interview process for the job you're going to want to get afterwards anyway. So it's better to get that practice in, for example, this summer, than to wait until next year when you have to apply for jobs or other fellowships or scholarships. Right.
I will pause here. We have just over 10 minutes to go to the end of this session, and sort of feel welcome to answer. I'll jump into the questions that were asked in the Q&A, and I just discovered that there was a question box there. So sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah, me too. Yeah, I can jump in and start answering them if that works. Should we just do that?
Let's do we can do because there's some questions that are pretty quick, and I'll go in the order as they appear. Merve asked, sorry for me, how long are the master's program in China? The program is, did something wrong here. The program is 1 year in duration. Is a very, very fast and intense program. I still don't understand how we can pack so much into a 1 year program, but we can, but it is a 1 year master's degree program in China. And again, applications are open now for people willing to start in the fall of 2023. So the program starts around August of 2023, and it will end, or the graduation is scheduled for June, July of 2024. May apply for a scholarship for doctoral studies as well. Gokar, thank you very much for the question. No, the Schwarzman Scholars is a 1 year master's degree program. So you apply to the scholarship. It's a one program only. It's not similar to other scholarship programs that you first get accepted into a university and then you will apply for funding or fellowship. No, this program it's a one application process for one program, and the fellowship is attached to the program itself. And important to say too, there's no option of doing the program without the fellowship. So it's not if I can and if I'm willing to pay the tuition, can I still apply? No, the program is a fellowship program in itself, and that's how it's been designed. Leila asks, how does your mentorship program is connected with students' future career? Maybe that's one question that I'll survey. You mentioned your mentor relationship, and
the mentorship system is connected in that when I had my mentor, we had a matching system, and so we were able to put our interests in and the kinds of people we wanted to be paired with, and then the admissions office would do our best to pair people with our interests. In some cases that didn't work out, but that was still fine because the experiences that that your mentors were able to share were still so invaluable. I think in some cases they help shape the career that you go into, like they did for me, and in some cases they're good for advice and just how to navigate China and your steps after.
Right. Thank you so much. Amir asked, this is to Servet, so back to you, Servet. What was your favorite part of the program, and what was the most challenging part of it?
Yeah, wow. Imiran has a lot of questions. Thanks for being so engaged. My favorite part about the program has definitely been the opportunity to travel with my fellow scholars. There are gaps within the program because of public holidays that allow you to travel. And those, I think, are really where those networks that I talked about really blossom. And that's where the relationships really skyrocket. So, for example, we took a train from Kazakhstan all the way to Beijing through Xinjiang in the Muslim region in the northwest province of China that's on the news quite a bit lately. And it was a 1 week long train ride. And I was able to see not only the landscape of China, but also just meet such diverse and different populations throughout China, all in one place. And China has over 50 ethnic minority groups all in one place for you to really, although, you might think of it as Chinese, it's a very nuanced culture. I think the hardest part about the program for me was I wish I had studied a little bit of Chinese before joining. Beijing is not an English-friendly city in my experience. And so I wish before I had joined the program, I bought a Chinese book just to study a little bit, so I can say things like, "Where is the bathroom? How much does this cost? What is this dish?" And so, but that would quickly change because I took Mandarin as soon as I came to the college and got that foundation.
How's your Mandarin now?
It's okay. After the program, I actually lived in Shanghai again for about 6 months, and so really had to use the Mandarin. So I'd say it's okay. The way I describe it is it's enough to go on a date with a girl, but not enough to do business.
That's a very good way to describe. Thank you. There's one question for me here. It's, are we going to upload the letters of recommendation during the application process? And yes, we didn't have time. I didn't really wanted to cover the details. The letters of recommendation are a critical component of the application requirements. Every applicant is asked and required to submit 3 letters of recommendation. In Servet's time, it was 4, so you guys are lucky. And you know, the way the recommendations happen from the tech answering Emran's question, what you do, you input in the application form the name and contact information, the email of your 3 recommenders, and they will receive an automatic message instructing them to upload the letters. So it's not the applicant that upload the letter, it is the recommender, he or herself. So it's very important, obviously, that you are in close connection to your recommenders, that you know who they are, that they know who you are, and that they know, you know, that they don't receive an email saying, am I recommending you for something? And they don't know. And obviously, I think much more than the technical part of it, the recommenders play a very, very important role in the application, right? It's, you know, the application is important to be seen as an entirety. We don't have a team only evaluating letters of recommendation, another team evaluating CVs, another team evaluating the essays. Every application is read in its entirety by 2 independent application readers who do a very thorough job of understanding the whole, everything. You know, the main purpose of the evaluation process of each application is to understand who this person is, why is applying to China, why, and what is the level of understanding you guys have about why are you trying to join this community in this particular moment of your lives and your careers. So very important. Thank you for the question, Emran. And we will, just as a reminder, we will have, and we already are hosting this month and the months to come until September, several sessions dedicated exclusively to people who are already working in their applications. So we cover every aspect of, you know, how to apply or letters of recommendation. So I definitely recommend you to stay tuned. Another question for me, are we going to, oh no, that's the same one. Thank you for the presentation. Considering the minimal level of English requirements, if we have done our undergraduate education in English entirely from a AACSB accredited business school in Turkey, I don't know about that. What is the A? Can you help me with that survey? Is this an acronym that I don't know? AACSB. Still, do we need to show certificate? So I'll just answer the question quickly. It is important if you have 2 years or more of experience in an undergrad or graduate institution where the language of instruction is English, you do not need to submit a TOEFL or IELTS or your Cambridge assessment tests, which are the 3 main tests that we accept. So again, if you're a native English speaker or if you have studied in an English taught university at an undergraduate or graduate level for at least 2 years, you don't need to submit a test. All right, there are a few questions more. I'm currently a Chinese language and literature student. I would like to be an intern at Tsinghua University. Does the university have an opportunity to students who study on my area? Is there any scholarship for this? Thanks in advance. So I unfortunately cannot speak for Tsinghua University. Schwarzman Scholars, as I said in the beginning, is based at Tsinghua. We are part of Tsinghua University. Our students and scholars are first and foremost students and part of the student body of Tsinghua University. But I cannot comment on the admission process or internships or other programs offered at Tsinghua. I definitely recommend you to visit the website more and more. You know, Tsinghua is quite within the Chinese scenario. Is a very international university. Not only it's a prestigious university in China, but it's providing more and more each new year. It's receiving international students, but also offering programs fully taught in English and several opportunities for international students. But unfortunately, I cannot comment in any detail on that because I'm not part of Tsinghua. I will jump to the question. My question to Servet: did you like Chinese food? And how different was it the Chinese food in China and the Chinese food that we have all over the world?
Yeah, very, very different. Chinese food is typically a little bit oilier. At least Northern Chinese food is typically a little bit oilier than Chinese food you would get everywhere else. I love Chinese food. That said, you have to be a bit of an adventurous eater at times. For example, if you were to have chicken feet, some of those things are a little bit harder and less common. But I would say overall, love Chinese food. It's like Türklerin sulu yemeği gibi, yanında da pilav falan veriyorlar. It's like a very similar concept as like Turkish wet food, I guess.
All right. We have 1 minute left, and Zeynep, I know I want to keep it within the time, but I want to finish up. And for the questions that were not answered or fully answered, please reach out to our team. Please follow us online. But I want to wrap things up by asking Servet, and maybe you could can do that fully in Turkish, even though I will not understand anything. But
okay.
What are your recommendations for someone who watched this presentation and is interested in applying, or someone who already knew about Schwarzman Scholars and is like now very decided to apply or even reapply to the program? So what is your main recommendation to aspiring young leaders from Turkey who are willing to join the program this year?
Yeah, bu programa başvuran kişilere en büyük verebileceğim öneri, application'ını yazdıktan sonra okuyan kişi senin hakkında 3 tane sorunun cevabını bilmeleri lazım. Birincisi, neden sen? Neden böyle bir scholarship, böyle bir yatırımı senin adına yapsınlar? Neden bunu hak ettiğini ispatlaman lazım. Yani sadece söylemen değil de neden seni seçsinler? Bu birincisi ve yani inandırıcı bir şekilde anlatılması lazım. İkincisi, neden şimdi? Yani 28 yaşına kadar bu programa başvuru yapabilirsin. Neden şimdi sana bunu vermemiz lazım? Neden seneye versek, biraz daha olgunlaşsan o zaman versek daha verimli olur mu? Ya da do you know what I mean? And üçüncüsü de neden Çin? O da gerçekten çok önemli bir soru. Bu program yani çok hususi bir sebeplerle Çin'de kurulduğu için Vietnam'da ya da Japonya'da bu programı yapamazsın. Sadece Çin'de yaparsın ve Çin'in neden bu kadar önemli bir şey olduğunu, senin kariyer ya da geleceğin için ya da gördüğün vizyon için Çin neden önemli bir konu olduğunu ispatlaman lazım application'da. Yani neden sen, neden şimdi ve neden Çin? Bu 3 soruyu cevaplayabilirsen application muhtemelen başarılı olur. Ve ispatla deyince de yani sadece anlatıp da değil de experience, yani tecrübelerinle ve yaptığın şeylerle bunu gösterebilirsen gerçekten de inandırıcı olur. Bu ara ben bana mesaj göndermek isteyen biri olursa ya da LinkedIn'den bağlanmak insan olursa beni chatte LinkedIn'imi paylaştım, oradan da bana ulaşabilirsiniz. Federico, in short, my answer was why China, why now, and why you? And those 3 questions must absolutely be answered in the application in a convincing way through storytelling. Was my big piece of
advice.
Got
everything. I got all the Turkish thing. I felt the energy. It's just,
right.
Yes. So I mean, with that, Zeynep, I don't know if you're still with us and if you want to close the session. If not, I would like to really thank everybody who joined us today. In my understanding, the session has been recorded and will be recorded, so it will be available soon in IEFT as platform. So thank you all very much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure, and special thanks to Servet. It's really no words, man, to have you here. It's a complete game changer. So
the pleasure is mine, Federico. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you very much for the great presentation, Federico and Servet. It was a very fruitful event for the attendees, and you covered all of the questions. Thank you for your answers too. Also, I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Umarım sizin için de faydalı bir webinar olmuştur. Schwarzman Scholars ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için chat kısmında paylaşılmış olan mail adresinden Federico ile iletişime geçebilirsiniz. Aynı zamanda linkleri incelemenizde faydalı olacaktır. Bir sonraki webinarlarımızda görüşmek üzere. Thank you very much again, you guys. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Teşekkürler. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.